Hey folks, welcome into the News 12 Now desk. Thanks for joining us here on this Thursday, May 11th here, 8 o'clock this morning. Checking outside, a little bit of clouds out there, but overall this has been the coolest morning we've had so far this week. Been some really warm and kind of muggy mornings out there, but it's been pretty good. Let's take a look at the 7-day that Tim left up for us so nicely. Yeah, a little cloudy this morning, high of 84, and looking pretty good going into Mother's Day weekend. Hopefully everybody has all their gifts already. We are actually going to talk about Mother's Day coming up a little bit later on, but we are of course talking about our top headlines, the big stories going on in the CSRA, in the two-state, really in the country, just kind of everything that's going on, all encompassing is what we're covering here. But we, as always, we start here in the CSRA. In the past 4 months, the Richmond County Sheriff's Office has gotten nearly 100 overdose calls, and with the few drug rehab treatment facilities in our area, the Hale Foundation offers a different approach, helping men take back their life in just 1 year. For Brendan O'Connell, or excuse me, I'm actually reading the whole story that you're about to hear. A local foundation is trying to help men who are struggling with addiction. The Hale Foundation has a 1-year housing program designed to help men over the age of 18 get sober and back on their feet. Our Taylor Martin spoke with the president of the program as the community works to find solutions for a deadly problem. So that little bit I just read a minute ago, you're about to hear again, but you'll get past that.
In the past 4 months, the Richmond County Sheriff's Office has received nearly 100 drug overdose calls. And with few drug rehab treatment facilities in our area, the Hale Foundation offers a different approach, helping men take back their life in 1 year. For Brendan O'Connell, it was a decision between life and death.
Without the Hale Foundation, the chances of me being dead are pretty high.
Through their 12-month program, the foundation houses, feeds, and employs residents for $800. But if they can't afford the admission fee,
and we can front that money to their account, and then they can work it off.
And unlike other programs in the area, it's non-medical and doesn't accept insurance or government assistance, providing hope for those who can't find it themselves.
I tried everything in my power to live a successful life, and I just couldn't do it.
With 92 overdose calls so far this year in Richmond County, it's a reality those at the Hale Foundation see every day as men come through their doors looking for a chance at a better life.
I couldn't tell you how many times I hear when their loved one or themselves comes in here to start our program, yeah, he just came from the hospital, he overdosed, he died on the table 2 times or 3 times, or I've overdosed 5 times in the last 3 months.
After 7 years of sobriety, Brendan says it's a life he would have never imagined.
I have purpose in my life today, which, I never had before. Living a life that I never dreamed of, really.
The Hale Foundation admits those struggling with any type of substance of use, so that could be opioids or alcohol, and they tell me they have no cap on the amount of men they admit yearly. They are currently housing about 60.
Okay, thanks for that, Taylor. A great organization there helping out a lot of people. A man's in critical condition after a police chase in Columbia County ends in a crash. The sheriff's office tells us the man sped away after stealing from the Kroger on Columbia Road. A Columbia County deputy chased him, and in a short distance, speeds had gotten up to 80 miles an hour. It ended when the driver hit another car before crashing into a pole at Columbia Road and Washington Road. Deputies say the suspect was partially thrown through the windshield and the car caught on fire. The deputy was able to pull him out of the car. That intersection was shut down for more than an hour as they cleared the scene and got those traffic lights back up. It was a wild scene out there. I was actually driving down that way. The traffic lights, the wires were like down over the road. If you were driving anything bigger than like a utility van, you probably weren't going to be able to get through. There you could see it. Cars kind of just getting under, almost limboing under the light wires right there. It was nuts being out there. A grand jury decides not to indict 3 Richmond County deputies arrested for assaulting a suspect who's accused of shooting another deputy in the face. That means there are no longer charges against the 3. Andrew Acosta, Quincy Ken, and Robert Wilson were accused of slamming Vernon Craddock against a wall at the Richmond County Sheriff's Office while he was handcuffed and being escorted into the building. The deputies were placed on administrative leave at first, but sources tell the I-Team they were later given 2 choices, either resign or be fired. But yesterday, both District Attorney Jared Williams and the clerks tell the I-Team the grand jury issued a no bill, meaning there will be no trial. Last year on November 10th, Deputy Michael Cole responded to a disturbance at a home on Bungalow Road. 2 deputies, including Cole, went into the house to speak with Craddock, but the GBI says he started shooting. Deputy Cole survived the shooting, and the I-team has learned he is back at work. Meanwhile, Vernon Craddock Jr., who you see now on your screen, is facing 25 counts of aggravated assault. Originally, after the arrest, he was only facing 5. We're learning more about the housing crisis impacting our veterans. Georgia is one of 5 states with the highest homelessness rates in the nation. Between 2010 and 2022, homelessness dropped nearly 56% for veterans, but with rental prices climbing, many in our area are still struggling. So to make a change closer to home, 2 buildings of the Charlie Norwood VA are about to undergo a big transformation. Right now, plans are to turn the 2 unused wings, or the unused wings, into 76 units for housing. Our Craig Allison talked to 2 nonprofits that are working hand in hand with the VA to make sure the project gets done.
More than 11% of Augusta's population is made up by the military community. That's actually the highest concentration in the state of Georgia. That's why city leaders, Housing Community Development, the Charlie Norwood VA Medical Center, and other veteran nonprofit groups are all coming together to turn this historic space into more housing for those homeless in this community.
These are the very veterans that protected this country, that made all the freedoms we enjoy possible, and they're down on their luck.
With a big military population and VA resources here at Fort Gordon and in the medical district, the need for housing is high to be close to those resources. And being a veteran in and of itself increases the risk of homelessness.
There's veterans that are returning home from war. They're suffering from PTSD. They're suffering from all types of issues that are service connected.
They're having struggles mentally, physically, in large part due to their service, and we need to do everything in our power to help them.
Applying for 2 tax credits, 1 historic and 1 low income, they hope to apply $26 to $27 million to build this plan up. While the Charlie Norwood VA Medical Center has already helped 122 veterans find housing in 2022, they want to help as many vets as they can.
Community partnership is really fundamental and foundational to getting those veterans in permanent housing.
Now, the deadline for these tax benefits is on May 18th, so all these groups are trying to get this plan through the commission next week so that they can then get to the application, and if approved past that, can then get the ball rolling on a firm timeline and even more of the plan. In Augusta, Craig Allison on your side.
Also out of commission, tiny homes are another affordable housing option on the table. Last year, Augusta commissioners passed the ordinance for the legal building limits with the guideline it must be in a village. Commissioners were also concerned about where the tiny homes would go and the price tag with a cap of $200,000. At the time, Mayor Garnett Johnson said he wanted the tiny homes to be in a location that would not bring down any nearby property value. There's been no progress on these talks since August of last year. Rentals are a major business in Augusta, but changes could be in the works. Augusta commissioners holding a special meeting yesterday to consider whether any new ordinances are needed to address short-term rentals in the city. Some of the listings or some of the regulations include limiting the occupancy to 2 people per bedroom, requiring on-site parking, setting a maximum number of daily guests, and limiting the number of short-term rentals in multifamily buildings. As Commissioner Stacy Pulliam explains, this is in the brainstorming phase.
So this is just the beginning stages, just to kind of get a feel for what are the issues. Do we have real issues? And if so, how do we address those issues?
Commissioner Pulliam says these ordinances would not affect the master's rental market. She says the next step is to hear from people like renters and law enforcement to get a better idea of the situation. An accused teacher's aide is out of jail facing 2 separate cases and 8 counts of child molestation. A 26-year-old Caurey Rollins is found guilty. He could face up to 160 years behind bars. Our Hallie Turner did some digging to learn more about his bond conditions.
The district attorney's office sent us this bond order, and it's pretty cut and dry. Rollins can have contact with other children, just not the ones he allegedly hurt. And now that he's out on bond, one victim's family says they're back at square one.
I don't feel safe allowing my kids to go outside because I don't know, like, if he's around lurking.
By the time this victim's mother received the call, 26-year-old Rollins was behind bars and already had a bond.
We didn't know anything about a bond hearing. We found out about it after the fact. and I feel like he should not have gotten a bond hearing.
Usually, before a judge grants or denies bond, the victims are notified and allowed to speak, but not for Rollins victims.
Nobody knows about this bond hearing. They didn't even give the parents a chance to go say, hey, I don't think this is a good idea for you to let him back out.
And this setback is one Child Enrichment Services sees a lot.
I started here as a therapist, and I can remember clients I worked with where that was difficult, or even if it was their offender got out of jail, finished their sentence. So what was really important is just kind of doing some safety planning with them of, hey, what can we do to make sure you feel safe?
While it may feel overwhelming, Caurey says they do see success in healing, even when it feels like justice is failing.
We see huge success just from completing therapy, and kids are going to complete therapy way before anything happens with court.
There is a victims assistance program through the DA's office that Child Enrichment works with. We are working to learn more about that, but if you are in need of immediate help with your child, we'll have that link on our website at WRDW.com to get you where you need to be.
Okay, thanks for that, Hallie. We now know the winner of a storm drain art contest in Aiken. Nong Von B was put on the Aiken soil, or was put on by the Aiken Soil and Water Conservation District to emphasize that whatever goes into storm drains eventually ends up as drinking water. It could also end up in our local water supply.
Each one of the murals has a message, and each message is different. This one obviously says only rain down the drain. So hopefully it'll start a conversation about conservation. You know, why would they do that? And they'll stop and read the message.
So congratulations to Nog Von B for her winning artwork. In Martinez, investigators say a woman looking for love was scammed out of $145,000 by a guy she met online. The Columbia County Sheriff's Office says the woman started texting a man she met on a millionaire dating site back in March. He told her he lived in Sunset Island in Florida. He encouraged her to invest in cryptocurrency and promised to teach her how to make a profit on her investment. She even took out several personal loans.
It's 1:15. I'm all alone and I need you now.
Lady A is back on tour playing for sold-out crowds. These are some snapshots from their latest concert in Nevada. The group's been creating music and pouring into our community for 17 years. Charles Kelly was born right here in Augusta. Last August, the trio postponed their tour to let Kelly get treatment for alcohol abuse. The CBS Morning Show caught up with Kelly for an honest conversation about his path to sobriety.
What are your tools?
A lot of meetings. I go to a lot of group meetings with other alcoholics, and I've got a case manager. I'm not even ashamed to admit it. I've got this little device I blow in every morning and every night, and it's not even for me. It's for my wife. It's for the band. It's for everyone else to know, because I think
Are you checking alcohol back?
Yeah, and so slowly but surely that has built the trust back. That eventually I think that won't be a necessity.
You can catch his interview on CBS News. And it's also on the CBS Mornings YouTube channel. And if you want to catch Lady A in concert, their next day is June 24th in Charleston, so not even too far away. Well, this Saturday, the Golden Harvest Food Bank will be collaborating with the National Association of Letter Carriers to hold its annual Stamp Out Hunger food drive. You may have received a postcard in the mail explaining the food drive and how you can help.
Food items in a bag and place them by your mailbox for your letter carrier to pick up. He will then pick up all items and bring them to the post office, where we will have volunteers there waiting to take them out of the letter carrier's truck or vehicle and place them in the Golden Harvest tote.
The Stamp Out Hunger campaign is the largest one-day food drive in the country and has collected more than 1 billion pounds of food for families facing food insecurity locally and nationwide. Unite in the Fight Against Cancer Walk is coming back to the Georgia Cancer Center this Saturday. This is a big fundraiser event with funds going right to the patients.
Most of the pediatric patients that we have do have some type of brain tumor, so we have to use this to immobilize them while we treat them. So when we start the planning process, they're able to pick what character they like, what they want to be, and that's just a chance for them to be something else for that 10 or 15 minutes that they're laying on the table. So all these funds help provide the art supplies for the mask, for the ceiling tiles for the patients.
Therapists painting the ceiling tiles have been going on for many years, with the idea coming from a sense of pride for a kid, the same type of feeling that comes from when your parent would hang your artwork on the fridge. If you can't make it to the walk, you can always make a donation on the Georgia Cancer Center's website or the Unite the Fight website. Our Zana Halliburton and Cliff Bennett are going to be out there emceeing that event, so go over there, say hello to them. Last year, we told you that the Augusta Child Enrichment Services broke ground on a new facility, and here's what it looks like today. Crews have started working on the irrigation design, layout, and installation, and when it's completed, the new headquarters is expected to have an additional interview room, an on-site medical room, and a training room. The FDA is discussing how and where women can buy birth control. Currently, women need a prescription to get birth control, but the FDA is considering the first ever over-the-counter pill. Abby Casares takes a look at how this could impact Georgia.
I'm very, very glad that there'll be an option out there.
Pharmacist Ira Katz is talking about a pill called the O pill. The manufacturer, Parago, says the pill is safe and effective when taken as guided.
Especially in rural parts of the country where women do not have access to an OBGYN or a healthcare provider, in many cases only the pharmacist.
According to a March of Dimes report, roughly 35% of Georgia counties are in what's called a maternal care desert, a place where there are no hospitals or birth centers offering obstetric care. Another roughly 18% of counties have limited access to support. Their findings show more than half of the counties in the state are without adequate OBGYN services.
Many people have been looking to have a birth control pill like this over the counter for a long time.
This week's hearing brought up concerns for the safety of the pill. In a briefing document filed last week, an FDA scientist wrote the degree to which efficacy of O pill is diminished in individuals who are overweight or obese still remains unknown.
Concerned that they are going to make a risky decision. Women's health will be jeopardized because of it.
Genevieve Wilson, a member of the pro-life group Georgia Right to Life, says if women don't see a doctor to get a prescription, they may not learn about the risks. The FDA also warns the pill can cause complications during pregnancy, ovarian cysts, and liver disease. They warn it should not be taken by a woman if they've had a history of breast cancer or liver disease.
Ask whether it is worth taking this, especially is it worth taking it without a doctor's care.
FDA advisors voted to approve of the pill. It will face a final vote this summer. Now there's some discussion about other companies seeking over-the-counter approval for new and existing birth control pills. In Atlanta, I'm Abby Casares.
Okay, thanks for that, Abby. 9 Army bases named after Confederate leaders are getting name changes. Here at home, Fort Gordon will be named to Fort Eisenhower no later than January. Fort Benning in Columbus, Georgia is working to rename the base Fort Moore. Jason Dennis shows us how the change is already in the works.
It makes me remember all of the times that I've come through this gate, right?
The signs are everywhere that Fort Benning is becoming Fort Moore. Our news partners, WTVM, was there as workers stitched the letters on this very visible sign on the way to the Army installation near the National Infantry Museum. The Garrison Command Team, responsible for soldiers and families on post, says the transition is an emotional one.
And I couldn't be more proud to be a part of this iconic change into Army values, family values.
Close to half those signs already changed, the rest being done on Thursday, May 11th, when it officially becomes Fort Moore. It's been Fort Benning for 105 years, and for those who say they'll always call it that, this colonel says no matter the name, they'll still committed to the same mission, producing greatly trained combat soldiers.
And really, nothing is changing on Fort Benning. Ranger School isn't getting any easier. on Fort Benning, right? Airborne school isn't getting easier. These things are all the same. What we like to say is this is an opportunity for us to align with a contemporary family moving forward, right? Such an inspirational leader, Hal, and of course his wife, Julia Moore.
I think we hit the absolute lottery ticket per se. When we talk about, we're the only installations being, commemorized for a husband and spouse team.
Fort Moore is being named for veteran war hero Lieutenant General Hal Moore and his very involved wife Julia, both buried on Fort Benning. And the signs are just the start of the changes.
Well, we have 3 roads that are changing. Fort Benning Road here will be changing to Legacy Boulevard, for example. We have 2 other roads on post, Dixie Avenue and Stonewall Road, that'll both be changing.
That was obviously not Jason Dennis. That was another station used the story of Jason Dennis, and then kind of just repurposed it, and then we aired that one. So my bad on that. All of the new police and fire badges are already on post. The name changes to U.S. Army posts are mandated by Congress. Again, Fort Gordon going to become Fort Eisenhower no later than January. So 6, 7, 8 months we've got left as Fort Gordon. Well, it's been 1 week since the mass shooting in Midtown Atlanta. 1 woman was killed, 4 others were injured, and yesterday one of the victims left the hospital. Just 1 day before this tragedy, lawmakers signed a new bill called the Safer Hospitals Act into law. The bill allows hospitals to hire their own police officers. One healthcare worker says violence in hospitals isn't a new trend. This new law will let hospitals around the state employ post-certified law enforcement officers who can carry guns and have arrest powers.
I was very anxious for a while going back to work. There's not a lot of people cut out to just day after day be willing to go that route with that unknown.
The bill will also impose more severe penalties in cases of assaults on healthcare workers. The countdown is on to the expiration of a pandemic-era policy that immigration officials said will lead to a major increase in the number of migrants coming across the U.S. border. Title 42 expires today. As Tori Cooper reports, it's leaving some Georgians wondering how it'll impact the state.
Under the Biden administration, trained asylum officers will be heading to the border of Mexico to conduct interviews with migrants looking to cross into the U.S. in states like Georgia.
They will be detained by the Biden administration for a hearing, generally in a phone booth at a detention center.
Immigration attorney Chuck Cook says migrants will have to prove they hold a credible fear of returning back to their home country. If they can't prove credible fear, he says they will be deported back to their home country. But if they can prove credible fear, they are given a court date, and while they await that court date to see a judge, they can live in places like Georgia, according to Cook.
After they filed their asylum application, they're eligible to file for a work permit. When that work permit comes, generally about 6 months after they file, they can work, which means for all these open jobs that employers have here in Georgia, there will be more workers to do those jobs.
At the next court date,
you're required to bring evidence. And if you don't have evidence other than a suspicious story, you're not going to win asylum.
But if migrants don't show up to that court date,
they get on a list that ICE begins looking for.
Cook says if a judge decides to grant asylum, migrants can then apply for a green card and eventually obtain citizenship. Okay, let's jump across the river here to South Carolina now. A bill that would restrict what can be taught and discussed in South Carolina schools could soon be on the governor's desk. It's called the Transparency and Integrity in Education Act, and right now it's under debate in the state Senate. State House reporter Mary Green was there and has the details.
Senators began debate on this bill last week. Republicans are trying to get it passed here at the State House before this legislative session ends on Thursday.
This is more of a preventative, proactive approach as opposed to a reactive.
The bill would ban teaching concepts including one race, sex, ethnicity, color, or national origin is inherently superior to another, and that people are responsible for other actions committed in the past by members of their same race or sex. The bill states it does not ban the fact-based discussion or instruction of controversial aspects of history or current events, or about the historical oppression of a particular group of people based on race, ethnicity, religion, sex, etc.
There is history that you can teach with the facts. The facts in many cases are bad enough, without offering subjective criticisms of it.
But Democrats say they're concerned this could lead to censorship in the classroom and a chilling effect on teachers.
What I don't want is that for some teacher with what they call facts about history for parents to come and says, because of this law that was passed by the South Carolina General Assembly, I'm now challenging you on that.
The bill would also prohibit students and school staff from being required to participate in mandatory gender or sexual diversity training or counseling. It also extensively outlines a complaint process if someone believes a school is in violation. The House of Representatives already passed this bill earlier this year, but senators have stripped two of the more controversial components of it. One, which would allow anyone to file a lawsuit about just about anything that goes on in schools, and another that would require teachers post their lesson plans at least 3 days in advance, which opponents argue would prevent them from teaching current events. If senators passed this bill, it would then return back to the House, whose members would have to decide if they would agree with the Senate's changes and send the bill as it is to the governor, or if they'd want to work out a compromise. Reporting from the State House, I'm Mary Green.
Many of the prohibited concepts are often associated with the controversial concept known as critical race theory. The bill doesn't mention this concept, which the South Carolina Department of Education has said is not part of the state standards. Public school teachers in South Carolina are guaranteed paid parental time off when they give birth to a new child or if they adopt or foster. And yesterday, the South Carolina House members unanimously voted to agree with changes senators made to the bill last week. Now the bill is on its way to Governor McMaster's desk. The search continues for a convicted murderer who was released from prison 16 years early. There's now a $30,000 reward for information on 43-year-old Jeriad Price. Price was released from a South Carolina prison in March, but has been ordered to return and serve the rest of his sentence. The state Supreme Court overturned a ruling requiring Price to go back to jail a couple weeks ago. The lawyers who are overseeing Alec Murdaugh's assets cannot act on his behalf in a federal fraud lawsuit, according to a court ruling. Nautilus Insurance Company is suing Murdaugh after a $4.3 million settlement was paid out for the death of housekeeper Gloria Satterfield. Murdaugh is accused of and has admitted to stealing that money. According to the new order filed on Tuesday, Murdaugh argued the co-receivers can't act for him because Murdaugh is not under conservatorship. Now that Izzy's law has officially been signed in Georgia, Izzy's mom is now pushing for something similar in South Carolina and across the country. Ashley Jones has the details.
SB 107 was signed into law by Georgia Governor Brian Kemp on Wednesday. And now the family of 4-year-old Israel Scott is working to bring that law to other states, including here in South Carolina. Izzy's family didn't know that this would be one of the last times they heard his laugh.
It's a daily struggle.
Dory Scott was Izzy's mother. She says his death has taken a toll on their entire family.
It's been almost a year and I'm constantly watching videos, looking at pictures. It's life changing. And I feel like my life will forever be changed.
She says she still remembers the moments leading up to her son's untimely death.
And he was like, I don't want to go. And I'm like, you don't want to go? Why? He said, because I might drown.
Scott says Izzy had a smile on his face when he said that, but that same day, just his second day of swim class, Izzy drowned. A report from investigators say the swim instructor's niece found Izzy laying face down at the deep end of the pool.
I just screamed. That's it. I screamed. I couldn't even hardly stand up.
Scott says that no one could tell her how her son drowned, and to this day, she still doesn't know. But now she's fighting to make sure no one else experiences that same pain.
We started looking into some things. There were no laws in place.
With the help of Georgia Senator Max Burns, Scott and her family came up with SB 107, also known as Izzy's Law. It would require the Department of Public Health to develop a model safety plan for private swim lessons and for instructors to implement a safety plan before offering those swim lessons. Specifically, it would require each swim instructor have a safety plan, including but not limited to a student-instructor ratio, presence of a secondary supervisor to assist in the safety of all swimmers, and allow for all parents and guardians to be present during swim instructions. Scott believes if this legislation was already in place, her son would still be alive today.
I know he would, because the reason why I say that is because, first of all, she had too many kids. It got to the point to where you were looking more at dollar signs versus the kids' safety?
The private swim lesson sector basically suffers from a lack of regulation.
Anna Capps is a local private swim instructor. She says anyone, regardless of their current certification, can teach private swim lessons.
Having those regulations can only protect you as an instructor, and it can only protect you as a consumer, right? So I really don't see a downside to requiring those regulations.
Capps told me that private swim classes usually only include the teacher and the student. The day that Israel drowned, he was one of 10 students in that private swim class. Reporting in the studio, I'm Ashley Jones, WIS News 10.
So there you go. Have to see what comes out of that, whether that gets taken up in South Carolina, other states across the country as well. Like you heard the swim instructor say, certainly can't hurt to have those regulations in place. Just a reminder, the COVID public health emergency has come to an end, but in South Carolina, DHEC wants to continue to keep you protected from new variants. DHEC will continue to offer free COVID tests. Their inventory has been refreshed, and the kits will be available at most of their health clinics across the state. They also have longer expiration dates and will be good through the start of next year. We're hearing from writer E. Jean Carroll following her civil trial victory against former President Donald Trump. The former president was found liable for sexual abuse and defamation in a first-of-its-kind judgment. Robert Costa has Trump's response to the case.
Donald Trump faced voters for the first time tonight since a civil jury found him liable for sexual abuse and defamation of writer E. Jean Carroll.
This is a fake story, made up story. She's a whack job.
He also repeated false claims that the 2020 election was stolen.
That was a rigged election, and it's a shame that we had to go through it.
The political impact on Trump's campaign is still emerging, but several Republicans have said the verdict is further evidence he should not be the nominee.
He is not fit to become president of the United States.
I think the whole country is looking for a fresh start.
For now, Trump is the clear frontrunner in the race for the Republican nomination. New Hampshire voters have 9 months before the party's primary. And former state GOP legislator Kimberly Rice said the verdict should not be shrugged off.
Why does it matter to you?
It matters to me as a woman because, I've been in a position before where a boss has chased me around. And, women should be believed.
But at a local Manchester diner, June Dickerson said she stands with Trump.
Because he's a very honorable man who is always honest and forthright, and I don't believe lies.
One of Trump's rivals for the nomination, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, who campaigned in New Hampshire today, said Republicans will suffer if they back Trump again.
If Trump becomes the nominee, do you believe Republicans would face political peril in a general election, especially with women voters?
Well, I don't believe Trump can be elected, and Trump is the candidate that the Democrats would prefer. And that is enhanced by the fact that you've got this jury verdict now that made this finding.
Certainly going to be interesting to see how this impacts the whole presidential race coming up next year. I actually talked with an Augusta University political science professor here at the News 12 Now desk. If you want to check that out, that's on the YouTube channel. And yeah, he talked about that in depth. We kind of went into a whole lot of stuff. But yeah, if you want to check that out, again, it's on the YouTube channel. According to sources close to the Trump campaign, the former president remained frustrated by the verdict. New York Congressman George Santos is pleading not guilty to federal charges. The congressman has been charged with making false statements, fraud, money laundering, and more. The DOJ says if he's convicted, Santos could face up to 20 years in prison. Santos says he will not resign, and he plans to defend himself from what he's calling a witch hunt.
We have an indictment. We have the information that the government wants to come after me on, and I'm going to comply. I've been complying throughout this entire process. I have no desire not to comply at this point. They've been gracious in there. Now I'm going to have to go and fight to defend myself. The reality is it's a witch hunt.
Santos was released on $500,000 bond. He's been ordered to keep his travel limited to New York, Long Island, and Washington, D.C. His next court appearance is scheduled for June. With just weeks to go before the country defaults on its bills, President Biden met with 4 congressional leaders to discuss the debt ceiling. both sides standing firm, with Democrats wanting to lift the debt ceiling without restrictions and Republicans insisting on spending cuts. But there is hope. Both sides meet again tomorrow to continue negotiations. NBC's Alice Barr has details from Capitol Hill.
With pressure mounting to reach a debt ceiling deal and prevent a catastrophic default on the nation's loans by as soon as June 1st, President Biden today turning up the political heat on Republicans.
They're literally, not figuratively, holding the economy hostage by threatening to default on our nation's debt.
The president visiting a New York swing district he won, while the House seat is held by a Republican who came to hear the president speak.
I'm willing to listen to what he has to say. We have to sit down and negotiate in good faith.
President Biden searching for a counterweight to hard right demands for massive spending cuts in exchange for raising the debt limit.
Where the credit card of the nation was maxed out by Joe Biden's spending over the last 2 years.
The president wants budget negotiations on a separate track to ensure the nation can pay its bills first. But the top 4 congressional leaders and President Biden failed to find common ground in a tense White House meeting yesterday.
Speaker McCarthy refused, absolutely refused, to take default off the table.
The parties set to meet again on Friday.
I hope President Biden has begun to wake up.
Top economists say an historic default would send the stock market into a tailspin, tank 401ks, and lead to a spike in job losses. All of that on the line with just 3 weeks to go to reach a deal. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Of course, we'll keep an eye on that, and they are again scheduled to meet tomorrow, so we will see what comes out of that. A search warrant is full of new details in the case of Caurey Rollins. She's the Utah woman who wrote a kid's book about grief after her husband died. But Eric McLaughlin tells us she's behind bars now, charged with her husband's murder.
In your personal life. So my husband passed away unexpectedly last year.
Tonight, the family of Eric Rollins, the man allegedly murdered by his wife turned children's book author, is speaking out.
They feel like there may be some justice here for Eric.
According to search warrants, Eric's family told investigators they believe his widow, Caurey, had something to do with his death, advising the father of 3 had warned them that if anything happened to him, she was to blame. Why did he stay with her?
The boys. I mean, he was by all accounts just an amazing father. He wanted to be with his kids as much as possible.
Police arrested Caurey on Monday near Park City, Utah, alleging the 33-year-old poisoned her husband in March of last year with a massive dose of fentanyl. Caurey's arrest a month after promoting her children's book on grief, inspired by Eric's death, calling him an amazing husband and wonderful father.
So you actually wrote this book with your children? I did.
According to court documents, an autopsy revealed Eric had 5 times the lethal dosage of fentanyl in his system. Caurey told responding officers that night she'd made Eric a Moscow Mule to celebrate closing on a house for her business. On 2 separate occasions, according to the documents, Caurey had purchased $900 worth of fentanyl pills prior to Eric's death. And investigators say Eric had recently changed his will and life insurance from his wife to his sister without her knowledge. The warrant states he didn't tell his wife because, according to his sister, he believed Caurey might kill him for the money, and he wanted their kids to be financially secure.
Caurey Rollins is charged with murder and has yet to enter a plea. She's expected in court next week. The American Psychological Association has issued recommendations for adolescent social media use. They issued 10 recommendations in total aimed at teens, parents, and teachers to help young people develop healthy social media practices. So here are a few. Minimize exposure to cyber hate, routine screenings for signs of problems, restrict use that might disrupt with sleep and physical activity, limit the use of social media for appearance comparisons, and social media literacy. Kate Chappell has more.
NAMI Chicago mental health professionals are taking calls at their Ravenswood headquarters, answering questions on a free hotline.
It's just really about parents leaning in and learning.
At a time when teenagers are in crisis.
Youth are seen and assaulted daily by violence and bullying and really unhealthy experiences through media that we may not even know they're seeing.
Responding to new guidelines from the American Psychological Association, or APA, for teen social media use, Licensed clinical social worker Alexa James says it's important to acknowledge the parenting space has changed.
Very black and white thinking around either you have social media or you don't is antiquated. It's how do we use this as a safe opportunity to engage in healthy relationships.
The guidelines released Tuesday examine scientific findings to advise trusted adults on how to guide young people to use the platform safely, and encourages both parents and teens to be trained in social media literacy.
You wouldn't give your kids keys to the car when they're 16 and just let them drive until they've taken driver's ed and they've taken tests to show that they know how to do that safely. Social media is even a more complex piece of machinery.
Mitch Prinstein, the chief science officer at the APA, says some responsibility is on parents to monitor social media use. But he also says tech companies should make their platforms more developmentally appropriate.
They've created such an engaging platform. They could really build social media literacy right into the platform and teach kids how to use their products safely.
Prinstein says social media may be a contributing factor to the unprecedented mental health challenges teens are facing. But he and James agree the platforms can be beneficial if used properly.
It helps them feel included. It provides them the opportunity to be seen.
Social media is such a thing that is so relatively new. We're all still kind of learning, trying to figure out and study the effects that it has, and we really may not know until many years down the line. A story out of Georgia opens the door to a lot of questions how someone is placed into hospice care and how their pain medication is prescribed and managed. The state's medical board is now investigating a doctor for his alleged role in an overdose that nearly killed a grandmother. Details of his involvement were recently revealed in a now settled lawsuit. Our national investigative team's Andy Parati explains how the woman's own daughter was implicated in the scheme.
Sheriff deputies and a county coroner respond to a home in 2017. They're told a woman inside, Shirley Couch, may just have hours to live.
Miss Shirley? Miss Shirley? Oh, you hurting, baby?
My mom's lying lifeless in a bed. She's in a coma.
Deputies in this North Georgia home find vials of morphine and bottles of antipsychotics in the room. Look at the coroner's face.
Oh, she's got a patch.
When she discovers someone placed fentanyl patches on Shirley, a powerful combination of narcotics usually restricted to patients shortly before death, all administered to Shirley, who was secretly placed in hospice care by a family member.
She's actually being overdosed.
Was your mom dying?
Absolutely not.
Christy Carr is Shirley's youngest daughter. What was she doing in hospice care?
That was my question exactly.
Who admitted Shirley into hospice? Renee Bonner, Shirley's oldest daughter, who worked at Homestead Hospice as an administrative assistant. Suspicious of her big sister, Christy called 911.
We are watching a murder, and I'm not going to stand by and watch it happen anymore.
In 2019, a judge found Renee guilty of attempted murder. In 6 years after the family was told their mother was knocking on death's door, Shirley's still alive. What did you think when you woke up from the coma?
I was so confused. I didn't know where was I at.
We visited Shirley this past February.
But to have your child trying to kill you, that's hard to live with.
But that's not the end of the story. Shirley's family believes someone else is to blame for nearly killing their mother, someone who never met her. He's Dr. James Shiver.
No, I did not see her physically.
Seen here in a 2021 deposition, part of a recently settled lawsuit the family filed against the doctor. He's the former medical director for Homestead Hospice. In the deposition, Shiver claims he prescribed Shirley morphine, fentanyl, and other drugs, but only after consulting with nurses on the phone, caring for Shirley. According to court records filed by Shirley's attorney, which includes the doctor's Verizon call logs, Shiver and the nurses never spoke.
And this is an empty vial. Okay.
Multiple requests for an on-camera interview with Dr. Shiver went unanswered, but over the phone, he denies any wrongdoing. Dr. Shiver claims he can't remember speaking with Shirley's nurses telling me Whether or not they were and when they were called, I don't know.
God is the only one that decides when it's our time. Because in my opinion, how's that any different than putting a gun to your head and pulling the trigger? They're just doing it with drugs.
So while Shirley's family submitted a complaint to the medical board, the agency declined to confirm or deny whether it's investigating Dr. Shiver. But emails and texts their team reviewed between Shirley's daughter, Christy, and a medical board investigator show the agency is looking into a complaint filed by the family. Homestead Hospice was acquired by a different company after Shirley's incident. Its new owners declined to comment. All right, let's move on to some lighter stuff here as we kind of wind down this morning. Mother's Day is Sunday, and if you're looking for a gift you won't be getting from anybody else, a personalized tech gift may just be what you're searching for. Our consumer tech reporter Jamie Tucker has a look at 3 tech possibilities that are one of a kind.
These are gifts only your mother will love. Tech gifts so specialized, they're 1 in a million, just like your mom. If mom is the sentimental type, an heirloom video book may bring tears to her eyes. Look at this. It's a physical photo album of videos. All those clips you have on your computer and phone, there's no better way to share them than in a book. The video begins to play when she opens the heirloom video book. The video and sound quality are terrific. All you need to do is upload your videos and photos to Heirloom and then add music and maybe a little editing. The Heirloom video book can hold up to 20 minutes of video. Bet you never thought of giving mom vitamins and supplements. Nourished makes gummy vitamins that are specialized to mom's nutritional needs. She'll answer a few questions online about what's most important to her. Nutrients for hair, skin, energy, weight management. Then, here's the cool part. Nourish will create a stack of gummy vitamins to address those nutrients with a 3D printer. Add her favorite flavor, and mom will receive a box of 28 daily vitamins in these gummy stacks. And forget about store-bought Mother's Day cards. No matter what you think of ChatGPT, it can create a very personalized poem or song or even a limerick just for your mom. Just tell ChatGPT what to write and then enter some things that mean a lot to your mom. Kids' names, vacations, her favorite hobbies, whatever. ChatGPT will then write what you probably can't. It's pretty good, too. It doesn't cost anything. You can find all of these gifts online. The prices range from free to about $70. That's What the Tech. I'm Jamie Tucker.
I don't know about that ChatGPT poem. That feels like kind of the cop-out way to write your mom a little poem. It's not from the heart, from the ChatGPT bot. Okay, moving on here. The father of the UGA football player killed in a car crash back in January has filed a $40 million lawsuit. The suit blames multiple employees as well as the estate of UGA staffer Chandler LaCroix, who also died in that crash. The family of Devin Willock claims there was a lack of oversight by football team officials and employees, and there was negligent entrustment of a car to LaCroix. How about some local sports here? 6 local softball teams played in their district championship games last night, and the Greenbrier and Harlem baseball teams are both in their respective state semifinals. Dan Booth has your sports.
Between all of the high school, college, and pro sports, the spring is a crazy time of the year. It's even more crazy when 6 of our local softball teams are playing for their district championships on the same night. The Strom-Thurmond softball team won both of their games 8-6 and 14-9 to win their district title. Wagner-Sally won a high-scoring affair against Whitmire to claim their district championship as well, while Ridge Spring-Minetta, Saluda, Williston-Elko, and Bamberg-Earhart all came up on the wrong side of their box scores. Across state lines in Georgia, the Greenbrier baseball team has made it to the state semifinals for the first time since 2015. The same year they won their 6th state championship in school history. The road to number 7 has been filled with a lot of obstacles for the Wolfpack. Their last 2 playoff series were filled with a lot of drama, including 2 series deciding game 3s on their home field. Greenbrier's state semifinal doubleheader against Loganville starts on Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. The Wolfpack aren't the only team from Columbia County trying to punch their ticket to state. In Class 3A, the Harlem Bulldogs are in the state semifinals for the first time in over 20 years. The Bulldogs have been on a tear, sweeping all 3 of their playoff series so far, but their biggest test is ahead of them this weekend.
We hadn't been this fall since 1999, so we're all pretty excited. You know, the crowds work real hard. They continue to work hard, and they believe in themselves. So, you know, we're going to go down there Saturday, and who knows? We just have to see what happens.
The Bulldogs state semifinal doubleheader against defending state champion Pike County begins on Saturday at 1 o'clock. That's it for sports. Have a great day, everybody.
Good luck to all those local teams, and congrats to all the girls that were able to pull off their district wins last night. And good luck to, I think the boys are going for theirs tonight, I want to say. Maybe tomorrow night, but I think it's tonight is the boys district championships. Aiken High's track and field team is dominating right now. They turn their eyes to the upper state championship. The girls have taken the region title 8 years in a row. The boys 4 times. Alyssa Lyons hit the track to catch up with the Hornets on another championship season.
Track and field at Aiken High School has become something of a business. You come in, you buy in, and you leave with a product you can't find anywhere else.
We understand what it takes to win. The girls have always pretty much dominated this area. The boys, it's always kind of more competitive.
The girls won 13 of the 18 events at the 4A Regional, clearing the board by more than 150 points.
We come out here every day. We put our heart and everything on the track.
Jamira Davis swept the 200 with a time of 26:16, 3 seconds faster than her former teammates at North Augusta.
It's a higher expectation here. Like at North Augusta, I mean, we did a couple workouts and everything, but I feel like here, he pushed you to the limit to, you know, because he know you can do better. I won some races, but like 4x1 here, they always had us in region.
This year, Davis was on that winning 4x100. It was the 8th time the girls won the region.
The underclassmen, when they come out for their first year, they know because the upperclassmen set the standard as soon as we come out for practice.
Aiken boys relays were untouchable, going 3 for 3. A team when they're all up against the clock.
We're all wearing the same jersey out there, so there's not really a name on the back like other sports. So I think we just go out there and compete for each other.
And set a couple records together. Hornets have broken 3 this season. Call it luck, call it standard. Coach says winning is just how they do things in Aiken.
Lately, we've just been kind of running things, but I feel like a lot of the programs are starting to kind of rebound. I would hope that it's the coaching and the will to just win. I think that I would hope that that's what it is more than anything.
In Aiken, Alyssa Lyons on your side.
The Hornets go up against the clock again next week. The 4A Upper State qualifier set for Saturday. The meet for state is the week after. It's one of the great traditions here at South Carolina graduation. The ball of energy that keeps tens of thousands of South Carolina fans going every Saturday, crossing the big stage this week. The Gamecocks mascot, Cocky, as we affectionately know it, revealed her true feathers at the ceremony. The best part, she is from right here in the CSRA. This is Sarah Sylvester. She's worn the suit for the last 2 years, and she graduated with a biomedical engineering degree. Congrats to her. Go Gamecocks. For those of you who don't know, it's of course a secret who the South Carolina mascot is until graduation, when they put the feet on, and then when they get announced, they walk across the stage. Really cool tradition. Okay. Mother's Day story before we go here. It's time to grab some flowers to spoil your mom. Mother's Day is one of the biggest days for growers, and it's just 3 days away now. One couple in Williston transformed their backyard into a flower farm. Our Will Volk picked up some gardening shears to learn more about what it takes to make this kind of business bloom.
Margot Huggins spends a lot of her free time on the family flower farm.
We spend a lot of Saturdays out here because my husband has a full-time job too, and we have 2 small children. They do help sometimes.
They're a mom and pop running a literal mom and pop operation in their backyard.
We are, yeah. We sure are. Cut down to there.
Huggins and her husband both love gardening. They started growing here 3 years ago.
We've taken it from almost nothing to what you can see now, and I'm sure we're not finished.
Row after row of flowers fill their yard with color. Huggins says it takes a lot to do this.
I don't think that people understand what it takes to grow flowers. They think you just throw seeds out there and ta-da, it's pretty, but that's not always the case.
She says it takes careful planning to make the flowers look right. It also takes time. These flowers had to survive the winter after they planted them in September.
Honestly, the freeze that we had around Christmas really hurt a lot of these crops. I lost flowers that were already in the ground.
Huggins is turning the ones that made it into bouquets.
It's a labor of love and we enjoy it. And we think that we're creating beauty.
Creating beauty in the backyard. In Williston, Will Volk, on your side.
So Huggins says Mother's Day is always a busy day for them. In fact, Rivendell Farms has already sold out of bouquets for the weekend. But if you do want to get some flowers from them, we do have the link up on our website, WRDW.com. You can also find out about all these stories up on our website, WRDW.com. If you're watching this on the website, be sure to download our WRDW streaming app. You can do that on your Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, whatever your favorite streaming device may be. We've got all of our I-Team investigations up there, First Alert Forecast, Aerial Augusta, live newscasts, and it is all free to download. So why not go ahead and do that? Also, be sure to check out our new YouTube channel. Let's show you how to do that real quick. Just go to YouTube, WRDW News 12. And right here, you just hit this little subscribe button. So that will kind of get you all the same stuff. We also are streaming live on there. There's an ad right now, but in like 3 seconds, I'll skip it and I'll show you. So there we are. Yeah, so that's streaming on there. But we put a bunch of clips on there. So if you don't have time to watch a full 30-minute newscast or something like that, we do have all the links on there as well. Also, we do some longer form stuff here on the News 12 Now desk, and we link all of that up there as well. So, yeah, just a couple things to do to stay up to date with what's going on in the community. That's going to wrap it up for News 12 Now top headlines. We've got about 4 minutes until the morning mix starts. So if you want to pop on over to the TV side of things, Cliff and Zana will have all the latest lifestyle news for you going on over there. And Tim will toss in a little bit of weather. Just a little bit, though. You know, he doesn't like to do too much work. I'll be back here at the News 12 Now desk a little bit later on this morning, so we'll see you back here then.